I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. It's too good to not talk about. Did you see that clip of Mike Johnson desperately twisting his little brain into a pretzel to try and explain Trump's involvement in the Epstein files? I don't know whether he's trying to gaslight himself or all of America or both, but let's watch it.
He's not saying that what Epstein did is a hoax. It's a terrible, unspeakable evil. He believes that himself. When he first heard the rumor, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. He was an FBI informant to try to take this stuff down. The president knows and has great sympathy for the women who have suffered these unspeakable harms. It's detestable to him. He and I have spoken about this as recently as 24 hours ago.
I'm sorry, but this has got to be the most desperate cope I have seen from Republicans on this issue. Let's not forget that Mike Johnson shut down Congress early to make sure that representatives could not vote to try to subpoena the Epstein files. Let's remember that Mike Johnson will do anything that Trump wants because he's a Christo-fascist. He wants to install a theocracy in the United States, and he sees Donald Trump as the conduit through which he can do that. I was actually talking to my neighbor earlier today about how, like, when Kevin McCarthy was Speaker of the House, everyone was real excited that there was going to be like a vote of no confidence. He was going to get pushed out. And I remember the timing, like, y'all, his replacement is Mike Johnson. Kevin McCarthy, an opportunist with political ambitions, absolutely craven, no moral compass whatsoever. Mike Johnson is a zealot. He's far, far, far more dangerous. The Christian nationalist zealot with no compunctions about lying to himself or the American people, apparently. He's saying that Donald Trump never said that it was a hoax. He's saying Donald Trump was secretly an FBI informant. I have not heard that line from anybody. Mike, did you make that up spur of the moment? Do you think that that is the convincing new fabrication that the American people, your MAGA base, are somehow going to accept? Do you think that's going to make the Epstein files go away? Do you think that's somehow going to discredit or nullify the upcoming information that the Democrats, including Representative Stansbury, have said we will be finding out about the Epstein victims and what they say happened? 3 days ago, my dude, 3 days ago, Donald Trump said, quote, "So this is a Democratic hoax that never ends. You know, it reminds me a little of the Kennedy situation. We gave them everything over and over again, more and more and more, and nobody is ever satisfied. From what I understand, thousands of pages of documents have been given, but it's really a Democrat hoax." Or do we need to go back to July 16th of this year when Donald Trump said, "The Democrats' new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work." He posted that on Truth Social about his own MAGA supporters calling them weaklings, saying, let them go forward, continue forward, and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore. He also said of the Epstein files, these scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, you now expect us to believe that Donald Trump was some secret FBI informant, some white hat who was trying to protect the Epstein victims? Why has he not in his first term and not in this term then released the Epstein files? Why has there been no movement whatsoever? And in fact, he told us to move along, to forget the Epstein files, to stop talking about it and to move on, and then started framing it as a hoax and now continues to repeat this framing of the Epstein files, of the Jeffrey Epstein trafficking and exploitation of, according to Donald Trump's Department of Justice, at least 1,000 women and girls. But you, Mike Johnson, expect us to believe, and again, maybe you are gaslighting the shit out of yourself on live TV. Maybe that's what was happening. But you expect us to believe that Donald Trump was secretly working for the FBI to stop Jeffrey Epstein and get justice for these women and girls. There's no information, no data, no evidence that would in any way corroborate what you're saying. We have seen nothing to that. The Trump regime has not said that. Pam Bondi has not said that. The FBI has not said that. Donald Trump, who has no problem saying whatever he wants on any issue, he does not feel constrained by, state secrets. He hasn't said that. He's said that it's a hoax and we should stop talking about it. The level of cope here is unfucking real. It's unreal. And not only that, but how insulting that you thought you had a clever little bit. They're like, oh yeah, the American people, they're so fucking stupid. They're so gullible. They're going to buy this. I'm going to spin some absolute fabrication with no evidence to support it. Maybe you're planning on manufacturing some evidence after the fact now that you've made this claim, or maybe you don't care because it'll get splattered across 4chan and, MAGA boomers on Facebook will start spreading it. And you think that it's going to get the job done of protecting Donald Trump. We can see, Mike Johnson, that you don't actually care about justice for Jeffrey Epstein's victims at all. You only care about protecting Donald Trump. And the fact that you have to go to these lengths, the fact that you have to fabricate something like this and go to these lengths claiming that the president of the United States, back when he was a billionaire, was a secret informant for the FBI in a case where, the victims have not gotten justice. The only person sitting in prison for what Jeffrey Epstein and his super rich friends did to all of these women and girls, the only person sitting in prison is Ghislaine Maxwell. And Donald Trump moved her into a minimum security prison and really wants to give her a full pardon or to commute her sentence entirely. And you expect us to believe that all of this time he was fighting for justice for the Epstein victims who have been denied justice every step of the way. How tremendously insulting and how tremendously desperate you sound. You are the very definition of grasping at straws. You understand how devastating this is going to be when all of the information comes out. You know what this means. And yet, instead of saying we want justice and accountability, instead of taking the political opportunity here, just like maybe it's time that I start to detach myself from this. Instead, you're like a little male anglerfish who has sealed his lips to the big bloated body of Donald Trump, and you cannot extricate yourself now, even if you want to. Good. I hope you go down with that ship, since you've melded yourself entirely to it. My daughter's just in the background saying, "You're mixing your metaphors, Mom." Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed that. Biggest cope I have seen thus far this year. How do you feel? How do you feel with Mike Johnson trying to sell you a line of bullshit that Donald Trump is secretly an FBI informant and that he doesn't think the Epstein files are a hoax? He's actually been working this whole time for decades to try and help Epstein's victims. Fucking kidding me.